Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to recap Samsung's Unpacked event. Of course, the stars of the show, the Galaxy Note 10 and Note 10 Plus. I've got my Note 9 right here, my daily driver. I've gone through basically every Note other than the first generation, simply because the first gen I felt was a little too large when I saw it at CES 2012, but after I used one, it was really tough to go back. I think I only skipped one other generation, which I believe was the Note 5, because I just was not sold on the USB 3.0. You can see I've even got my Note 7 here. My fiance's got my old Note 8, the Note 7, the handset that could have been great, but instead decided to explode. You can see the separation right there. But let's focus on the Note 10, Note 10 Plus, moving my Note 9 out of the way, the camera array no longer like this, more like the S10 now along the side. And what do we have? So with the Note 10, we're looking at a street price of $939 US. With the Note 10 Plus, we're looking at $1,049. So in terms of pricing, not a big gap, but I think it's really smart what Samsung has done here. They've made a Note 10 for everyone who doesn't necessarily want the biggest phone on the block, because as you know, Note phones have just gotten larger and larger and larger. The Note 10 Plus, on the other hand, satisfies traditional Note users that are looking for the biggest and baddest handset that Samsung has to offer. So let me just run through specs. First and foremost, the displays. 6.3-inch Full HD AMOLED on the Note 10. On the Note 10 Plus, you're looking at a 6.8-inch display that is Quad HD Plus. By the way, these are Whitestone Dome glass screen protectors for the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus. Shout out to them for furnishing me with these review units. I will likely end up raffling these off, doing a giveaway for these. If you have interest, throw a post in the comments. They make a solid product when it comes to screen protection. But moving right along, going away from the display, let's talk about the processor. Whether you spend a little under $1,000 or a little over $1,000 US, you're getting the same exact Snapdragon 855. There is a 5G variant, by the way, on the Note 10 Plus. No 5G variant on the Note 10. The other option, if you're not stateside, both phones will sport an Exynos 9825. 8 gigs of RAM in the Note 10, 12 gigs in the Note 10 Plus. Both are DDR4X. In terms of internal storage, the Note 10, 256 gigs, that's it. No expandability with a micro SD card slot. Here in the Note 10 Plus, you've got 256 or 512, and you do have a micro SD card slot for storage expansion that is capable of bumping you up by a terabyte. So in theory, if you get a terabyte card, throw it in the 512 model, you can have a terabyte and a half in your pocket, which is bonkers. Moving away from that, both of them have stereo speakers, of course, sound by AKG, that's Samsung's own brand, surround sound with Dolby Atmos technology. No headphone jack on either of these phones. So the beloved headphone jack of days past, kiss it goodbye, because unfortunately, that's where it's gone. And, Samsung's answer to this is it just gives them more real estate for the other internals, like battery capacity, which is something else that differs from the Note 10 to the Note 10 Plus that I will get to right now. Basically, with this phone, the Note 10, you're looking at a 3,500 milliamp battery versus a 4,300 milliamp battery. Now, I haven't seen specific battery life tests on either of these handsets yet, but I'm going to guess they're fairly similar. And part of that has to do with the fact that this has a much higher res, larger display, lower res, smaller display, even though they're both running the same exact processor, CPU. So that probably has a lot to do with the fact of the battery size having that much of a differential. I imagine they're still going to be pretty close when it comes to overall performance. Both of them have Samsung's latest fast wireless charging, as well as, of course, wireless power sharing, which is not a new thing. It'll be interesting to see how quickly these do charge up. Both have their ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner. Both have an IP68 rating, so these can still get wet without issue. And both will have Android 9 Pie with One UI out of the box. Other things to note that I want all of you to be aware of. Again, my own impression is that the Note 10, as opposed to the Plus, was a really smart thing, because while the Note always had a great identity, I know for one that this generation was starting to get a little too big, which is why I had a lot of interest in the Galaxy Fold. I figured if phones are going to keep getting larger, let's figure out a way to still make them palm friendly, especially if you don't have hands like, you know, a basketball player. No offense to any basketball players, they shouldn't be offended, but you got the hands to palm a basketball. I do not. So that's where I see the Note 10 really filling a gap with users who just didn't want to get a phone that's getting larger and larger and larger. I probably still will be more inclined to go towards the Note 10 Plus simply because if I am looking for best in breed, it still provides that. Now with the cameras, they're pretty much exactly the same. And I'll give you the breakdown right now because, you know, I would like to say it does a lot to differentiate from the current S10, but it doesn't do that much. So right now, the S10's camera is, in my opinion, probably the best on the market. You know, the 16 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, the 12 megapixel wide angle, and then the 12 telephoto. So with the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus, they did the exact same thing. The key difference, there are a few minor ones, really lies in that with the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus, you've got the telephoto lens aperture being sped up. You can now collect more light. I'm not sure how much going from f2.4 to, you know, f2.1 is going to make a huge difference. I mean, I already thought the camera on my Note 9 was great. Of course, the S10 slightly outclasses it, but that kind of difference, not really sure how much of a difference it's going to make in getting better images. And I'm a camera guy. I still don't know. I think that's negligible. I think it's a spec grab. I call it like it is, nothing new. Now the front-facing camera has changed also, still 10 megapixels like the S10, but again, the aperture has gone from f.9 to f.22. So, you know, odds are, speculation is this is more about fitting it into the display. Now I am not in love that we have the answer to the notch, which is a pinhole in the center. I'm not in love with the pinhole crap. I don't like any of this crap with trying to stick the hole somewhere. Not being cute here. I mean, I actually like what OnePlus did with, you know, not having that problem, but all things aside, still like what I'm seeing here overall in terms of the feature set. The only advantage when it comes to cameras that the Note 10 Plus has over the lower, not really spec'd, but priced Note 10 outside of its display and battery, because that's really what it boils down to, is that it does not have the time of flight depth vision camera on the back of the device. So what that lets you do is get essentially accurate measurements through Samsung's measuring app, or alternatively live focus for video, which is another cool thing. So you can get blurred backgrounds while filming a subject, something that smartphones don't do right now. Also, inside the video mode, this is on both phones, they have new precision audio recording, so that's going to allow you to have 3 stages of audio zoom, essentially, in order for the 3 microphones on board on the Note 10 and 10 Plus to detect where your audio is coming from. So this all sounds really good. They've got a whole host of new accessories that look nice in terms of different docks for wireless charging, you know, Type-C. Of course, the fast wireless charging 2.0. I'm very curious to see how that's going to do. A lot of different colors on the accessories, but again, we're looking at $948 versus, I think I said $938 at the beginning, versus $1,049 Note 10 to Note 10 Plus. So literally, you know, just about a $100 difference between the different models. And then of course you can step up to the 512 gig version of the Note 10 Plus, which is going to take you closer to, I believe it's $1,099, but not positive. Pre-orders will start tomorrow, or I think it's tonight actually, and then delivery will begin on the 21st of August, and they'll be in stores. So if you want to walk into a brick and mortar and actually pick one up there, you're looking at August 23rd. But again, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, Unlocked, prices are the same across the board, $948 or $1,049. Verizon will be the only carrier, I believe, to have the 5G version. But that pretty much sums things up. A little under 10 minutes, you got all the info that you pretty much need to know. The only thing I left out is that the new S Pen, unlike this S Pen, you know, the tired old Note 9 one, Now has the ability to essentially control your camera with gestures. I think that's beyond a gimmick. I think using this as a remote shutter was smart. The gesture crap, I think, is kind of crap. I don't think that's going to sell with everybody. Beyond that, they have some new text conversion capabilities from taking notes, which I think is a great thing that needs to be improved. We'll see how much it actually improved. The ability now to move away from those emojis that were, part of turning yourself into an emoji, which I think is ridiculous, but it was there. Now they're giving you the ability to essentially draw on a person's face, and that'll follow whatever's in focus that the camera's captured. So, instead of an AR experience, you have a different sort of AR experience. That's all I can really say on that. But that rounds out the Note 10, Note 10 Plus. Of course, there's more software to get into that they've tweaked. That's always an improvement every generation. But that's kind of similar to them tweaking out the accessories. So, like what I see here, again, I've got the Whitestone Dome glass ready to go. I will likely be picking up the Note 10 Plus, not the Note 10, although, again, I think the Note 10 was a really smart move on Samsung's part, because it's going to give you all of that functionality and basically all of the features outside of the one thing I mentioned with the camera, and of course the lower resolution screen, slightly smaller screen, and the slightly smaller battery. So it's really a matter of preference, not budget. Do you want the big Bahama Mama over here, the 6.8-inch display, or are you looking for something a little more palm-friendly in the regular Note 10? So I think this is smart. In spite of all the criticism, the behemoth is still there for everyone who must have the best. And the irony of the Note 10 is it still pretty much delivers the best. It just does it in a smaller form factor. So I like what they did here. Am I blown away? No. Do I think it's a smart strategy going forward for their brand, making the Note 10 the piece de resistance of smartphones? Yes, absolutely. So a lot to like here. Other things were announced. Not sure I'm going to cover them. The watches, the new, Qualcomm-driven fake laptop. I'm going to call it that, the Samsung Book, because it kind of is that. Wish there was some kind of notebook. Samsung, if you're listening, do that crap. What are you waiting for? Make a notebook. Be smart. Why am I coming up with that here in my studio? Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.